What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So Sean Strickland's boxing was on display again in spades last night. Aubs Magomedov was a very highly touted prospect coming into this fight. Lethal everywhere, good kicks, good striking, good discipline on the ground, great wrestling. I mean, this guy was seemingly somebody who was on the fast track to make their way to a potential title run, and Sean Strickland said, not so fast. I'm going to show you some really clean, really powerful boxing and great pressure, and he did just that. What did you make of Strickland's performance?
I thought it was awesome, and I think we do have to go into the X's and O's of what he was doing in the octagon. His combination selection and the creativity that he was using with his hands. I mean, he basically threw all his kicks out the window once he started to really overwhelm Aubs Magomedov with his striking, and he's just winding up and he's throwing uppercuts. He's really good at aiming for the body every now and again, but just head hunting. And usually when you see somebody head hunting, the head will always move, but the body stays still. But in Sean Strickland's case, he was able to hit the head basically every time he threw a punch in that final round. And I was really impressed with his composure, the way he was able to stalk Magomedov and basically just walk him down. Essentially, we saw Magomedov crumble, and he was looking for a way out of that fight early on. He's a tough guy. He's a survivor. And up until that moment that he got dropped, he was trying to fight back. You know, you'd see him throw a couple shots to the body of Sean Strickland, and he landed, but it was nothing. When you're walking backwards and you're getting hit so many times in the face, you're losing your power, you're losing your cardio, and you can't afford to throw all of your power into one punch that's not going to do anything to your opponent. Sean Strickland deserves a ton of praise for this one, and I actually had Magomedov going into this fight for the sole reason that he just had more ways to win.
Right.
Yeah, Sean Strickland is kind of a one-trick pony. You know, he wants to stand and bang. He wants to be an entertaining fighter. He's going to throw primarily his hands, and usually people aren't left standing, but if they're able to weather that storm of his hands, if they're able to disrupt his striking a little bit and kick his legs out and then maybe grapple a little bit, they can usually get their hand raised against him. But Sean Strickland was on one last night.
Yeah, and his boxing is really improving. And, you know, the thing I worried about most with Sean is that you see these videos surface of him having these just insane gym wars. Mm-hmm. And we know the Max Holloway approach as far as durability in the octagon goes is probably the right approach. Once you reach a certain age and a certain level of your career, you can't be having these gym wars. Yep. And Max realized that a couple years ago and actually doesn't spar at all anymore. And I'm not suggesting that that's the appropriate thing to do. It certainly works for Max, but that can't work for everybody. But having these knockdown, drag-out wars all day, every day is very, very bad for the durability of the chin, which is what I think Alex Pereira exposed when he fought Sean. But then again, he looked like the Sean of old last night with even cleaner boxing. And what's so interesting to me is he fights out of that Philly shell, which in MMA is so unusual. I mean, the Philly shell works for Floyd Mayweather and maybe a handful of other people, Devin Haney, that are elite level boxers, and they do it in boxing. But to try to fight out of a shell in MMA, you have to be really good with your head movement. You have to be really good with your reads, and you got to be really clean with your feinting and your shot selection as well, which Sean absolutely was. He was throwing punches and bunches. He overwhelmed Aubs Magomedov and really got him to the point where he was so frustrated and so damaged that he just had to sit down. You know, there's only so much you can take, and when you're getting hit in the face by somebody who weighs over 200 pounds normally, time and time and time again, and multiple times in 2 to 3 second bursts, you know, there's really only so much of that you can take. So credit to Sean. He looked great. He said he wants a title fight. I don't think he's going to get a title fight because 185 has a lot of moving parts right now, and Khamzat Chimaev's name's getting inserted into the mix as well. But whatever he does next, he loves to stay active, so I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah, every time Sean Strickland gets on the microphone or he gets in the octagon, it's must-see TV. He's very entertaining with his fighting, but also with his antics on the microphone or outside of the cage. And like you said, he's pretty entertaining online when you see him striking and sparring in the gym. And he'll go against heavyweights, and you'll see heavyweights teeing off on him. And then he likes to go back and get his moments too, and you see him teeing off on heavyweights. So I wouldn't want to take that same approach if I were continuing my career as Sean Strickland is. But Sean Strickland is just one of those guys that, even though he's able to win a lot of fights, he still does take damage. And I just worry that when it comes to these big moments, these title fights, that he's going to get touched up a little bit too much because he isn't willing to stray from his style. He doesn't add very many wrinkles into his game plan, and people know how to prepare for him at the very highest level. I think if you can watch out for that crisp boxing and you can make him fight defensively, that Philly shell is very easy in MMA to disrupt and actually counter over and just kind of, expose, because you can't really do a Philly shell the same way in MMA that you can in boxing, because the gloves are so much smaller and everything can slip through. I mean, even a traditional guard is going to have so many openings when you have 4-ounce MMA gloves on, that in boxing, it's more realistic that you can block things with your big old gloves on, but in MMA, you're just not going to see those same opportunities. So I find it very interesting that he has that modified Philly shell where he has to use a lot of parrying and a lot of, punch redirecting. It's super unique. It's probably very difficult to master, but if anybody's got it right now in MMA, it's Sean Strickland. I don't know how he'll do at the very top of 185, but I'm interested in seeing what he does next. Doubt it's a title fight, but I know it'll be entertaining.
Agreed.